Thank you for listening to SPN, the Savage Podcasting Network.
You're listening to The Stephen Savage Show on the Savage Podcasting Network. And now, here's your host, film and television director, Stephen Savage.
Thank you, Nicole. How's it going, beautiful people? Savage here with you for yet another episode of The Stephen Savage Show, the official podcast of the Idlewild International Festival of Cinema. Podcasting as usual from Cranium Wheel Studios at Chateau Esteban in the beautiful alpine village of Idlewild, California, only a couple hours east of downtown Hollywood, but a world away at just under 6,000 feet, high atop majestic Mount San Jacinto and overlooking the great Coachella Valley. Before I invite my Zoom guests for today's episode, I want to remind you about our official lodging sponsor for the Idlewild International Film Festival, the Tahquitz Pines Retreat and Conference Center, a gorgeous venue near downtown Idlewild with fine dining on site and some of the most beautiful lodging cottages and rooms to be found anywhere in any mountain village, as well as facilities to handle any of your retreat or conference needs, or just a great place for a family stay or a romantic getaway. Tahquitz Pines Retreat. If you're planning a mountaintop trip to Idlewild, give them a call at 951-659-2934 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast. Okay, let's get started. I'm excited to have my guest on today for this episode. He's an actor of international renown, having found himself working on great film and television projects, not just in the U.S. and U.K., but worldwide. You can see him right now on the Spanish-produced Netflix series High Seas, which I began watching a few nights ago. It's very good. The Woody Allen gem Midnight in Paris, in which he was part of an all-star cast that includes Owen Wilson, Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates, among other great stars. The BBC HBO series House of Saddam, and the beautifully shot series Ancient Empires, which was filmed in Morocco, among other exotic locales. And he's worked with many of the greatest directors of the last 20 years, a lot of my favorites, including the aforementioned Woody Allen, Norman Jewison, Luc Besson, and many, many more. And his newest film, A Working Man, in which he stars alongside Jason Statham, is in theaters as we record this podcast. And I'm happy to say he'll be appearing in my upcoming feature film, Monkey Grip, which goes into production in just a few months. He's one of the hardest working actors that I know of, and I'm very happy to have him on the show today. So let me welcome to the podcast, zooming in from Paris, France, Mr. Daniel Lundh. Daniel, thanks for coming on, my friend. Appreciate it.
Dear Stephen, it's an honor to be here. I'm so glad to be talking with you at last, and I feel blessed to be a part of your podcast, and I can't wait to get into the midst of things and exchange some great words together and have a good time here.
I know. I'm anxious to work with you. Your U.S. agent, Travis Huff, was very instrumental in making our collaboration on Monkey Grip happen, and he cleared the way very quickly in order to squeeze my film into your incredibly hectic schedule. So I'm grateful for his help, and I'm just excited. We're going to be working together. I can't tell you.
I'm very excited myself. Let me tell you, I have a ongoing love story with California. I can't wait to see those wonderful landscapes again. My uncle used to live there near Santa Monica, a place called Valencia, and I used to spend all my summers there.
Yeah.
And deep in my heart, I knew I would end up there someday, and I'd be living there. It's my dream to own a ranch somewhere in California.
Sweet.
And to spend my old days there. So
I'd like to start the podcast with a little background from you, and for members of my audience that aren't as familiar with your work as I am. So would you mind sort of walking us through where you're originally from, your education, and of course what led you to jump into the acting thing in the first place? I know you're originally from Sweden, but since then you've lived and spent time all over the world. So give us the story of Daniel Lundh.
I'll do my best.
No stress.
No stress. I'll try the condensed version, but you have to give me yours as well right after. You have to promise me.
We'll talk.
Alrighty. So, well, long story short, my dad was Swedish,
Hmm.
and my mom is French. She has some Spanish background as well, but essentially French. And they met in London. I was born in Sweden, raised in Sweden until I was 7, and they were speaking in English together. So my whole childhood was like I had this English, French, Swedish. All around me, all these different languages. And then as soon as we moved to Paris, when I was 7, they put me in American schools.
Hmm.
And like I told you, I had a connection to the US. My uncle was an engineer. He lived there in California. Used to spend all my summers there. And after I was a big fan of the US and of American sports, specifically basketball. And I dreamt of going to college in the US. And so I'd set my heart on New York, and I went to New York after high school, studied drama at Lee Strasberg, HB
Hmm.
Studios,
Hmm.
and had a fantastic time. And then work opportunities brought me back to France, and I started trying to basically plant seeds in different countries because I didn't want to be confined to one part of the world. And it was my dream to work internationally. So I tried as best I can to make that happen by making connections, finding agents in the UK and France, and later on in Spain. And so it was, little by little, as they say, brick by brick. And yeah, I've been blessed with some great opportunities and working with directors that I've admired, and I'm really happy and thankful that I didn't expect, for example, to end up in Spain. That was a total surprise. I booked this role in this wonderful Spanish series called Tiempos de Guerra in
Hmm.
2017, and fell in love with Madrid, and spent what was supposed to be a 6 month stint ended up being a 6 year stint. uh, yeah, acting in these wonderful Spanish productions. I absolutely love Spanish culture and the Spanish
Hmm.
people. And then the UK agent was very instrumental also in creating great opportunities. I had a couple of leads in the last few years in a thriller and romantic comedy as well. And yeah, lately the Jason Statham movie Working Man, which was a lot of fun to shoot in London with David Ayer, great
Hmm.
director,
Yeah.
and that's how I connected with Travis, my manager, who's a very nice man, very hardworking person, and here we are.
Yeah, your journey just seems to be pretty exciting, and I don't know. And your accent is like I was as any director would be. I was going, the guy's Swedish, and then I started looking at your work and wait, this guy he's got a great American accent. He's perfect. So yeah, it was funny, but. I let's talk about this list of amazing directors we've been discussing. To start with, how'd the Woody Allen movie Midnight in Paris come your way? Every actor that I know, every actor on the planet would kill for a chance to work with Woody. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I would have probably killed to be in one of his movies as well. I was a big fan, and it was one of those things. My French agent at the time is, I don't know if you remember, it was like 2011. Well, we shot, it was presented in Cannes in 2011, but
Hmm.
we filmed a year before that, 2010. So they just reached out to me. It was actually the casting director was friends with a famous acting coach who works in Paris and who sometimes recommends actors to him. And they were looking for this very specific character, Belmonte, who was a Spanish bullfighter who
Hmm.
was friends with Hemingway. Hemingway was
Right. Very.
very keen on bullfighting and so forth. So you remember there's a lot of scenes in the past. So they just reached out and said, maybe Daniel could fit for this role. He has
Hmm.
they could pass the Spanish and he speaks fluent Spanish. And so they reached out to me, and it was the standard way. Really, was an audition. Woody Allen wasn't in the room. It was just with the casting director, and then he
Hmm.
just saw the tapes, and I got lucky to be selected. And as you can imagine, when I got that call, I was like jumping through the roof.
You talk about luck. I think luck is just the ability to be prepared for opportunity. You got the job because, yeah, it was funny when I remember watching that movie when it first came out, and believe it or not, I was weird as a kid, and I read one of my first books at 10 or 11. I read Hemingway's Death in the Afternoon, all about bullfighting.
At 10 or 11?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what, past life or something. My mom's people are all from northern Spain. They're all Castilian. And so anyway, I read that book very early. And when I saw Midnight in Paris, I went, yeah, he's got this cool Spanish matador vibe down. And I was thinking of matadors I read about in the book. And you had it down, man. It was a great role.
Thank you so much. Have you reread the book since?
No,
or any of his other?
I haven't, but I believe it or not, it's funny you say it. I just ordered a copy on Amazon because I realized I have a pretty vast library, and I realized that somehow that book got lost throughout my life, and I don't have a copy. So I said, I've got to have a copy. So it's funny you say that because I am going to reread it pretty soon.
I need to brush up on my Hemingway. I think I read Old Man and the Sea at the same age, but I haven't reread his books.
Well, that's the only nonfiction I think that he ever wrote. I love For Whom the Bell Tolls is one of my favorite books in that story. I think somebody ought to rewrite it. It's so, you look at the movie based on For Whom the Bell Tolls with Ingrid Bergman's in it. She's great, and it's got an Indiana Jones kind of vibe to it. Decades before Indiana Jones. I think that's pretty funny. I don't want to spend the whole entire podcast talking about directors, but Norman Jewison is a huge influence on my career. He and Sidney Pollack are among my favorites ever. How was that experience working with Norman?
That was another wonderful one. I was much younger. That was really what was my first movie in a feature, first role in a feature film.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was blessed to share. I think I had like 2 scenes. It was with the late Alan Bates,
right? Yeah.
Sir Alan Bates and Tilda Swinton,
right? Yeah.
And it was really amazing. He was such a wonderful, kind man, and like all these great directors, they have a tendency to be very quiet, collected. They know what they want, and it's really like a nice atmosphere to be on set with them. And I had the opportunity. Of course, I was observing him between the takes,
right,
and seeing him at work and trying to soak it all in.
It's funny, you can see actors who are really into the entire craft of filmmaking. When one of probably my first really big budget and really big cast movies that I directed, there were 2 young women actresses on that set who both later went on. Leslie Patterson, who was an actress in that movie, went on to become a producer and writer, and she just won, 14 BAFTAs and 6 Oscars for All Quiet on the Western Front. And then,
wow.
She learned her craft. She started learning her craft on my movie, and I'm like, you're way ahead of me now. So, also Cassie J, who's a renowned documentary filmmaker, she was an actress on that film. So, but it's cool when I hear people like you saying that you were kind of following the director around and I think, I'm not sure, but I think that film may have been a good friend of mine, Faye Brenner, is a world-renowned script supervisor. She may have been the scriptie on that. I know you wouldn't remember that, but anyway, she's a director now. But speaking of working with big directors and also working on smaller indie films, you've been involved in both huge Hollywood-type budgeted films, and you've also dabbled in some smaller indie stuff as well, which is awesome. As an actor, what is it that makes you choose to dive into a smaller project? Is it all about the script, or is it about an interesting character that maybe you haven't had a chance to play before? Or what drives you to smaller movies these days as opposed to like huge productions that you do so much of?
Yeah, it's I believe that my father was an actor in the first part of his life, and then he became an art dealer. And So when I was born, he was already into arts, but he liked to talk about creativity, about acting, and he said two things. He said there's no such thing as a small role, and he said
Mm,
every opportunity, every work opportunity is an opportunity to learn something, to
mm,
better yourself at your craft, to meet interesting people. And so he said you have to be kind of like, this Jim Carrey character, the yes man.
right. Yeah.
And not always, obviously. Sometimes you do have to turn things down, but so yeah, it's exactly what you said. I look at the script, I look at the character, and at am I going to learn from this? Am I going to grow? Is it going to be a journey where I'm going to explore and be able to dive into it and come out a changed man, or a better actor, or enriched as a human being from this experience?
Mm,
And yeah, so you have to kind of go with your guts and trust
mhm.
your intuition. So
Well,
that's what I try to listen to. And listen, you have written the most amazing complex script. I don't know if we're gonna talk about it, but it's so richly layered, and I can't wait to exchange about it with you. And because I mean, really big applause to you, because it's really a great script.
I
So
appreciate you saying that, and I really appreciate your dad putting that into you, and then you're carrying on that sort of work ethic, and I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's a big thing in the world. I don't want to diverge, get too off topic here, but dads are so important, man, and we talk about it now, and so many young men are growing up without fathers, and man, it's so important. I hear guys like you, the kind of actors that I hang out with are, like you and Angus McFadden and Kevin Gage, kind of the manly men, old throwback Hollywood guys. We like to consider ourselves sort of, we're on the cutting edge of what's liberal and what shouldn't be. But I like hanging out with the old school two-fisted drinker type of guys. But to think about your dad instilling that in you is pretty cool. I think you should be really proud of that and what he instilled in you.
thank you, Stephen. Thank you,
Yeah.
Stephen. How did you get into filmmaking?
Yeah, just I was a musician all through my 20s and into my 30s, and then my band had a major recording deal in Los Angeles with a major producer, and it just kind of fell through. And so I moved to the UK, played music there. I was there for 3 years, and one day I'm walking with my girlfriend at the time, and in the Soho district of London, and there was a film being shot. And I said, man, I've always wanted to try that. I'd been like studying film since I was a little boy without ever realizing I was ever studying it. I remember being 10 or 11 watching, getting up late at night and watching a Sergio Leone Western on TV and wondering, why is that shot? I'd look at a big boom shot and then the reveal of this big ranch and go, what is that? Why did they just do that? And then I just had to learn, how I had to, I think it's just in your blood, filmmaking. It's kind of like music. It's just there. And so, we were talking about screenwriting, and A Working Man was penned by Sylvester Stallone partly. That's going to be exciting to work on a Stallone script. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course, it was. It was. I mean, I also grew up with Sylvester Stallone, of course, who
Mm-hmm.
did in Rocky and all these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was quite impressive, when you received the project, and you got Sylvester Stallone, Ayer,
Yeah.
Jason Statham. Oh my God, oh my God. And and so yeah, it was great. And I think David Ayer collaborated on the script also later on, because he started off as a screenwriter himself.
Yeah, I think he's
So
credited with the screenplay as well as Stallone and one other guy. I can't remember who, but it's a good, really good script. I went to see it opening week mostly because of you, and so
bless you, bless you.
I had to go check it out. Who's this guy I'm going to be working with? And so, I want to see as much of your work as possible. But those type of movies can be hit and miss, but like the John Wick series is so enjoyable and cool, and anything that Jason does, he just seems to be gold. He just happens to be one of those guys, and you're great in the movie, and it's such a well crafted script. But I've been a Stallone fan, a fan of not only his acting in movies, but of his screenwriting since not only Rocky, but he did some great movies that he wrote that people don't even realize that he wrote. He's just an amazing screenwriter.
Steven, did he write Copland? You remember Copland?
Yeah,
or was he acting in that?
I remember the movie, but I don't think he wrote that. But I could check. I could be wrong. But he wrote a movie really early in his career, right after Rocky, called Paradise Alley, and it's about amateur wrestling back in the Depression in the U.S. and people were so poor and guys would just beat themselves up for any money at all, and. Interesting subject, but also just such a great script. And my friend Ann Archer is in that movie, and I've talked to Ann about that. It's a great, cool film. Armand Asante is in it as well. And but I'm just, people are, I love Stallone, but they don't say I love Stallone as a screenwriter, which I do. You've done.
We take it, because we're so used to seeing his face up there on the screen. But he's been a hardworking man his whole life. And did you see the documentary on Netflix?
I haven't, and I'm going to be watching it because it's on my list to watch. And I've got 3 other friends who told me, you got to watch this, man. You love Stallone.
It's very inspiring, and he had kind of a rough childhood, and you see like how he really managed to have this resilience and became a self-made man and sort of rose from the ashes and invented himself and created.
It's just the inspiration from Stallone for me comes in the fact that he would not give up the Rocky script unless he was playing the role. And he was offered some, he was broke, and he was just saying, I'm playing the role. And finally they gave in. And what I did with my first movie, real actual movie out of film school, was a thing called Cosmic Radio, and they wanted to get another director in and just buy the script. And I said, no, I'm going to hold on to it if I can't direct it. And they said, all right, so I had to sell them the screenplay for $1, and then they let me direct it. And now it's playing on Amazon Prime and every other platform now, and I'm pretty proud of it. It's been years, but I think stick to your guns and it'll lead you places,
Well done. Yeah.
You've dabbled a bit in screenwriting yourself. Is that I know you haven't probably done a great amount of it, but is that an enjoyable process for you?
Yes, I love writing. It's kept me company for many years. I really dabbled in. I started with as a young man with poetry, short stories, and plays, scenes that I'd perform with friends and so forth. And I wrote one play, but I haven't had the I don't know if it's courage or procrastination or what it is, but I've always told myself, Daniel, you need to either submit this stuff, try to get it published, or at least try to direct your own little film, put yourself out there, and if you have these stories that you want to tell. But I always find excuses, or just a great acting opportunity comes along, and I say, oh, well, I have to focus my attention on that now. I guess I'll just put it aside for the moment. But then time goes by, and you don't do anything about it, so it just stays there on your computer files.
Yeah, it's funny. We kind of, life is what happens when you're making other plans. But you know what? I'd say walking away from screenwriting once in a while for you, because you're doing so many great things. I think you're okay. I think we can forgive you for putting a screenplay away to go work on a David Ayer film. I think we can forgive you for that. You've worked on big European projects as well as U.S.-based company project. As an actor, do you find there's a big difference between European productions and things produced by or in the U.S.? And I ask this for my filmmaker friends, because there's a lot of people who are saying, man, I haven't been able to make my break in the U.S. Maybe I'll go to Europe, and and I'm just everything from agencies to booking films to the actual productions themselves. I mean, is the grass really greener if you go on the other side of the fence, or is it all hard and it's all hard work, and you find any difference between that European model of filmmaking and U.S. based filmmaking?
Wow, Stephen, that is a great question. And
Thank you.
I obviously, I'm only gonna be able to tell you my perspective from my
Sure.
experience
Sure.
from being involved in these productions, and I wouldn't know on the producing side of things how difficult the reality of how difficult it is,
Mhm.
and also from the US coming to Europe as opposed to from Europe coming in the
Mhm.
US. Obviously, from my experience, like on the actual set when you're doing it, I mean, we're all serving the same purpose,
Sure.
obviously, and the work ethic is the same. I
Mhm.
find maybe the Americans and the Brits, the Anglo-Saxons in general, this is something that I really like and admire, and that's just the the work ethic in the sense of like the organizational side of things and the coordination of things is very well put together from my experience and observation of things, and of course, most of these American productions I've been involved with have been bigger budget films, so that
Mhm.
also maybe facilitates, you
Right.
know. But other than that,
My
um,
friend Joanna Krupa is, a supermodel, but then she became a TV presenter and host, and she worked in, she's Polish by birth, but American. Like you, she would spend a lot of time in American schools and whatever, but she said that 10, 15 years ago, working in Poland was could be a little bit of a nightmare, but just in the last 15 years, she's producing and the face of a brand new show over there. It was America's Top Model is where it started. Now it's Poland's Top Model, and so she produces and stars in that thing. And she said that just European productions in the last few years, except for the UK's always been pretty big time, and I think
yeah,
France, they've always made great films ever since the days of Francois Truffaut and all that. They were good filmmakers, but she said in places like Poland and Yugoslavia, they're the Czech Republic, they're now starting to really get into quality film and television work. So I don't know if you haven't been doing it long enough to maybe know those old days, but it's kind of interesting the way that the world finally has caught up with Hollywood, and now there's so many. I was talking about my friend Leslie Patterson's film All Quiet on the Western Front that was shot all in Europe, and she said that was an amazing production, and there was nothing sort of half-ass about it. So
where did they shoot? Where did they
um,
film?
they
Do you
were,
remember?
yeah, they were in Germany, and I think they may have been in. Geez, I can't remember. Maybe they shot some in Poland. I'd have to look into it. I don't want to misspeak,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just that movie is pretty brutal and an amazing film the way they put it to work.
Every small town has that one special spot, a place where strangers become friends and friends share great times together. Idlewild, California has just that spot, Terrence Place Pub and Gallery, where live music and good company create amazing memories. We feature fine wines along with international and domestic tapped beers. Our vibe is welcoming, fun, and eclectic. Terrence Place Pub and Gallery is proud to be an official sponsor of the Idlewild International Festival of Cinema. Come and experience the alpine charm of Terrence Place, located in a village lane in downtown Idlewild, California. We invite you to stop by and have a great time.
Kick off your summer in true Idlewild style with art, music, and mountain magic. Join the Art Alliance of Idlewild for our summer kickoff event, a vibrant celebration of local artists, live entertainment, and community connection. Join us at the Idlewild Town Hall on June 28th. Visit artinidlewild.org or follow us on Instagram at Art Alliance of Idlewild for updates on all our events.
your newest film, let's get back to that, A Working Man, because it is in theaters now. We might as well talk about it some more. And it's enjoying a huge worldwide release in the moment, big film. And you kind of briefly touched upon auditioning for that, but was that a big process? Did you have to go to a lot of callbacks, or how did you land that role? This is a big hit, and it's a big deal for you. I mean, to have this film released it's got to be great for you.
For sure, it's really exciting to be a part of it, and the whole cast and crew were really amazing and very professional, and we got along just really swell, and it was a very, very nice shoot in London as well. So that was regular standard casting process. It was no callbacks, no meeting in person, just one round and send it over, and then I got the good news from agent, so I was stoked, as you can imagine. And David was an absolute pleasure to work with. He flew us all in. He flew us all into London for a day's rehearsal and reading, and it was sort of a table reading, but the very first, this is a funny anecdote, when we're all sitting down, all of us, he says, he picks up the script and he says, "This to me is secondary." Well, this is what he says, right? He says, "I want you guys to live on this set and exist on the set. It's your playground, and I like to create and invent as we go with what we are, which is human beings and this human material." And he had us all do a series of improvisations all together, paired us up, and we would just like get in the middle of the room and explore the dynamics of the characters. So we weren't playing our exact characters, but the dynamics of all the characters. So he, like the power plays, or the sort of try to find a liking to what the scene is about, and the conflict of interest and what's at stake, and explore those things. And so it was quite liberating for all of us, and it was a lot of fun, and we felt that we were in good hands. And this was, he actually on set came and did my makeup. Because I get, as you see, not to give away too much, I get beat up. I take a couple of punches.
You're a wreck, man. You're a wreck.
I'm a wreck. And so I had to be bruised up, and here he comes up to me and just grabs the makeup from the makeup person, says, "Do you mind?" And he comes and he just gets up close to me and starts drawing up a bruise on my face, and he was like, real artist, like hands all over.
Literally a hands-on director.
yeah, hands-on director, exactly.
That's
and
great.
And he, some of the other actors, I think he grew up in like a Latino neighborhood of California, and he writes a lot of these gritty, like police thrillers.
Right. Yeah.
And so he had some friends who had some experience of that. Not to get too specific, and I'm not going to name any names, but who had some personal experience and who could, give authentic. They sort of put a stamp on certain aspects of the script and say, yeah, this could happen, and this is.
Art and costuming departments too. I mean, you really get the feeling that you're, dealing with real construction sites and construction guys, and it's pretty well done.
Yeah, well, we had a huge construction site set up, and not far from it, it was in Canary Wharf in London, not far from the business district, but there were actually some construction sites not far, close by, so that added to the visuals as well.
Right. I look at you and I see leading man. I also see action hero. Is that a place where you'd like to see your career kind of keep leading toward, or do you see yourself venturing into character roles at some point and becoming a character actor? What right now, because you're still a relatively young dude, so it's got to be the playing, getting beat up is actually kind of fun on screen.
Getting beat up is fun. Yeah, I've died a couple of times. Um, and well, listen, I'm not close to the idea of doing action stuff. Like
Mhm.
the kid inside you wants to explore everything and play and have fun. But
Mhm.
I am definitely the drive for me has always been the heart and the
Sure.
mind of what I'm doing, like exploring the psychology of the characters
Action
and
heroes don't go to the actor's studio or study Strasbourg.
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't say I was like, I don't know if I would call myself a character actor. I don't even know what that means, to be honest,
Right,
Stephen.
I know.
But, uh, no, you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
just not characters that are necessarily totally smooth, or that's why I love the character of Harvest that you wrote, because
Mhm.
he's a broken man, and he's gone through quite a few things, so that's interesting to explore these aspects of human nature
Sure.
and vulnerability and so forth. Yeah, so
Yeah.
multiple dimensions, let's say,
Yeah,
of the character.
Harvey's you couldn't call him an action hero, but action falls on him constantly.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm glad that you look at the character that way, because I think he is a complex character. He's definitely a flawed human being, but the arcs are there, and I think that because there is that element of, car chases and stuff, they're fun to play, but in the character of Harvey, you'll be able to explore that inner demon that he deals with, and that's just, roles like that are just fun to write, and I'd imagine they're fun to play.
For sure, for sure. So thank you for putting these roles on paper, and really, like, yeah, all of the characters in the script are rich and interesting and not one dimensional.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's it tells a lot about your skills as a writer.
Thanks, brother. I do think that the Tommy character is a bit one-dimensional, what he has to be, in order for us to hate him enough. So, we mentioned you're being living all over the world, and you do speak quite a few languages, and that can't hurt in building a crazy international career such as yours. But are the languages that you speak, has that just come from being in these countries and living the life you have, or is it something you've had to study, or do accents? Like I said, your American accent is pretty spot on. Does that kind of thing come naturally to you, or is it something you've worked at a lot?
Well, I honestly think that the fact of having two parents of different cultures
Hmm.
and switching countries at a young age and being around these three languages, three, four languages as a kid, I think that's why I encourage my friends who have kids to not think that they're overwhelming them by teaching them a new language at an early age. On the contrary, because our brains are sponges when we're that small, and
Hmm.
it's much more difficult as adults because it's like, learning a brand new skill. I think I was lucky enough that was just circumstances. So it definitely opened the doors because I think from learning one or two languages later on in life, I realized but it happens. I'm not aware of how I go about learning a language. It
Hmm.
happens sort of in spite of me. I don't know how to say. So I think it's just I think it's just like a connection to sound and understanding, and I think it's also observing the energy of the language, the musicality. You're a musician yourself,
Hmm.
so there's a rhythm, a pace, and of course that's only form, but it helps. Like, so for the beginning, you just play along, you pretend, you convince yourself that you're
Right,
speaking it,
right.
and you have to jump, you have to to dare to make mistakes and just ask questions all the time, like how do you say that and how do you say that, and it's more fun to learn on location than in books, obviously, and bury your brain in like grammar laws and stuff like that, grammatic rules that take forever, and it just gives it that scholastic, this university feel to it, and homework feel, which is a bit less fun.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's just I think you're being a little modest. Learning languages is tough, and even though as a kid you had it, you pretty much were lucky enough to have that sort of flow into your life. There's still, I know you work hard at developing character, and so being able to speak some languages and having the capacity to learn quickly, it's good for you, man. And I think that's pretty amazing. Great tool to have in your acting toolbox, I think. Well,
thank you, Stephen. Yeah,
this has been fun, Daniel. I'm really looking forward to starting Zoom rehearsals and then Monkey Grip. This is going to be great, man. I'm so excited to work with you. But and before I let you go, is there a place where people who don't already follow your career closely, is there a website, or is social media the best way someone can follow your career? Because you're doing some great things.
I appreciate, Stephen. Yeah, I am on the gram. I joined a few years ato, semi reluctantly, but I I play the game. I'm on there. I sold my soul to the devil. So yeah, I'm there. Daniel Lundh, Lundh. So I'm on. I have Facebook, but I'm barely on it.
Yeah,
so just I post my work on Instagram,
right,
and try to share some behind the scenes and stuff with the people who are kind enough to follow me, and some things that I think they might like, on my travels or stuff, because
right.
So they can be a little bit with me and I can be a little bit with them.
Yeah, I think it's important, even if, like you said, it's it's a necessary evil at times. You just have to kind of navigate social media. I do my best. It's just not something I spend a lot of time with, but because of the podcast and other issues, it's good to have. But it's nice that people can find Daniel Lundh on Instagram and follow him around a little bit with all he's doing. So it's good stuff, man. All right. Well, that's about all the time we have for this episode. I want to thank all of our longtime listeners and our new listeners as well, who keep our numbers high and healthy. And you're the heart of our podcast, all of you who listen in and who download, and we do appreciate you. So for Nicole Hughes, podcast executive producer Steve Tuma, mixing engineer Maurice Sudo, the entire Savage Podcasting Network team, myself, and of course, Daniel Lundh. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks so much, Stephen.